It's back to school time for you youngins and for anybody who's going to get higher education. So what we're going to do is we're going to put together a computer. I'm going to give you like basically a buyer's guide with a parts list of what I would build. And I'm going to do it in a couple different tiers. So if you're just wanting to spend a few $100s, we can do that. We can build a system that's going to be extremely fast. It'll let you get all your work done and play games. Please don't go out and buy a retail copy of Windows because it's going to cost you 10 to 12 times as much as this. This is where I've been getting my Windows keys for the last couple of years, right here on Whokeys.com. They're my longtime sponsor as well, so thanks for that. The difference is this is an OEM key, so it's tied to the hardware, but you'd have to buy this 10 or 12 times to make it equal the cost of retail. The other difference is you'll be doing your own tech support here because you don't get the Microsoft tech support, but we're building a system, and I don't think any of us have ever used Microsoft's tech support, so that's why I like to use Whokeys.com. Now, they're having a back-to-school special, so these prices are even lower than what you see on the screen for Windows 10 Pro. We also have Home, Windows 11. Just to note, Windows 10 Pro at this time does also unlock Windows 11. So go online and Google and make sure that Windows 11 can still be unlocked with a Windows 10 key. We have Office 2021, 2019, and 2016 here. I always recommend grabbing a copy of Windows 10 Pro. So you get 20% off of the back to school special, but if you use my coupon code TS25, you'll get 25% off. Putting in coupon code TS25, click apply, and then watch these prices come down. Wonderful. Once you're finished, all you have to do is click on your user account up here, go to your user center, click on my purchase orders, just view keys and codes, and you can just copy and paste your key, hit start, type activate, click on activation settings, paste it in there, click on next, and you will be activated. You know, I never liked how Microsoft has different prices for different people. If you're a home user, you're going to pay 10 times more than an OEM builder or a corporation or something like that. And that's why I like heading to places like Whokeys.com to get the OEM keys so I can pay a price that makes sense. So thanks to them for sponsoring, and now to our regularly scheduled program. I think it's really important for everybody to have a computer in their room, or just a computer that's yours. Because really, for a lot of us, computers are going to shape our future. So we need to start learning as much as we can on them right now, and having your own and working on your own projects while also playing some games, having fun, and doing all your schoolwork. It's great. So here's what I'm going to start with. I really like last generation hardware because it's extremely fast still. You got plenty of cores, great processor speed, and these prices, 40% off, $100. The Ryzen 5 series are really awesome CPUs, and I've used the 5500 in a few different builds now. It's 6 cores with 12 threads, 4.2 gigahertz. This one plus a graphics card is a very good way to go if you're trying to save a lot of money. Now, if you want to save even more money, there's another option here. I've got a couple options here. So the point for a lot of this stuff is you sitting down and asking yourself, what do I want to do? Do I want to play only the modern, huge AAA games where you're going to have to spend money on a GPU? And I'll show you that. But if you're okay with indie games, or if you want to make indie games, then you can really save a lot of money. All right, this one, the 5600G. Now this one is a tiny bit faster. It's very similar. It's almost like the same CPU, but it's clocked at 4.4. That's the boost clock instead of 4.2. So it can go a little bit faster. Now the G, that stands for glutinous right. No, that stands for graphics. So you got the 5600G. This has an integrated graphics card. Well, how fast is it? You can play indie games, maybe some modern games at 720p. It's not going to be playing your AAA games, but you can play essentially your entire backlog, and a lot of your indie games you can play just fine on this. I recently made a video showing the best games to play on a very low spec computer, and those will all play great on this. So that video is in the description. They're all modern games. That's the catch. Is a lot of people always recommend, play a bunch of retro games or whatever. There are a ton of modern games that are coming out that don't require a ton of GPU power, and they're incredibly fun. So watch that video if you want to find some games that you can play on this. But the benefit of getting this is you don't have to get a graphics card. It'll just work out of the box like this. If you're doing mostly work and whatever, you can get this now, and then in a couple of years you can add on a graphics card, and then you can play all the crazy games. So this is where I would start for most people if you're trying to save money. And then the third option is if you have a little bit bigger of a budget, you can get the 5700G. The big benefit here is it's got extra cores and a little bit more speed. Now, if you're rendering a lot, or you're doing video editing, or you're doing something like that, or you're maybe doing some 3D stuff, that's the main thing. But if you're just playing games and you're just doing your homework, then you're totally fine with one of these. This one if you need graphics, this one if you don't want to save a lot of money. And then this one if you're okay spending a little bit extra money. It's got the integrated graphics as well. But the prices on these are ridiculously low right now. Getting this 8-core, 16 thread for $177 is ridiculously low. Now I do like to put on a CPU cooler, and this Thermaltake is nice and quiet. It's super basic, but it's also $23. Doesn't make a lot of noise, and it'll keep it cooler than the stock cooling unit. If you're going crazier, then you're going to need to get like water cooling and stuff, but we're keeping the price low, right? Now I'm going to be a little bit ridiculous when it comes to motherboards. I'm going a little bit older because the speed's going to be almost the same. You're not going to notice much difference from one to the other. You're going to save a little bit, and I like the legacy ports, so I'm a bit ridiculous, and I'm going to use this as a way to push you to get a CRT used on Craigslist. And then it'll change your life, and you'll be like, why did I never know? So this is the ASRock B450M. I'm also going to recommend a different higher grade motherboard for 20 bucks extra. So stick around for both, but I'll give you my justification for this one. We're not really going to be overclocking this, so we don't need crazy VRAGs, but it's got something going on here. Look at them MOSFETs and stuff. And then we have 4 RAM slots, which is better than a lot of the ones in this price range that only have 2. And then I really like this layout over here when it comes to the PCI Express expansion. There we go. Take a look at that. We have the M.2 up here, and then we also have 1-speed PCI Express here, and then we have 16-speed slots here and here. But the thing I like about this is putting the 1-speed slot above where the GPU normally is. The GPU, a lot of times it's at the top. Putting it up here means we can install that and a GPU and not have overlap with the GPU blocking ports. And I also don't like when the M.2 is underneath where the GPU is, because then it can overheat, and sometimes you have to take out the GPU if you ever need to replace that or whatever, so that's annoying. Now, here's the part where everyone's going to scream at me. Look at the back of this thing, the B550 or the B450Ms. You don't have too many options when it comes to outputs. How many USB do you need? And it doesn't have surround sound, which I'm kind of whatever about, but it's up to you. Now here, this DVI and VGA on the back, I love it. Plug them up to your old monitor is great. And I love that there's a PS2 port. Just because I love it, all right? That's it. And we have 2 of the USB 2 ports, which I also like. I prefer to plug my mouse and keyboard up to the USB 2 ports. Just, I don't know, seems to work better. I don't know. Now, if you want a slightly fancier motherboard, you can go up to a 520M. Now, the 520M and the 450 are very similar, and the speed is not going to be that different between the two, but this one does come with onboard Wi-Fi and a few other bells and whistles, and it's got the Asus TUF branding as well as the shields and everything on top that make it all fancy. Anyway, the ins and outs on the back are very similar. There we go. You do have DisplayPort, so that's the difference there. You get DisplayPort and you get Wi-Fi and a few other options, but you still have your PS2, which I love. So this one is a slightly better option, but it's going to be about the same speed for 20 bucks more, so it all depends on which bells and whistles you need. All right, I want to talk to you about GPUs for just a second, because the new 4 series is out, 40 whatever hundreds from NVIDIA, and then also the AMD stuff. It's just the new generation is such a small step up from previous generations that it's like very hard for me to recommend that when you can just go over and do this. Head over to eBay and grab a 3060 Ti. These are cheaper and faster than the 4060 right now. I don't know what NVIDIA was doing with the 4060 and the 4060 Ti, but 3060 Ti's are awesome. Right here you can get a whole bunch of them. The Asus are probably my favorite out of all of these because they are super quiet. Actually, the machine I'm working with right now has, I believe, this one, the MSI. And it's been running great. I use Unreal Engine and everything. Whenever I was doing all my streams and I was doing Unreal Engine and streaming at the same time, it was on a 3060 Ti. So if you're going to get a graphics card and you want to save some money and have a lot of speed for 1080p and 1440p gaming, AAA stuff, high quality, 3060 Ti is like a sweet spot right now. You can get them used. If you see one new for a good price, it's okay. But I would get this way faster than I would buy a 4060. So there you go. Let's talk about memory for just a minute. With this one, I want to get just 16 gigabytes. Right there, that's all we need. Now, I like having 3600 megahertz memory, but it's all depending on what you can afford and what works on your motherboard. So the faster memory does make a bit of a difference, especially for the GPUs, the ones that have the graphics card built in. So, they'll say DDR2 3200. Sometimes you can push it to 3600, but the 3600, if it's a good price, will work just fine with that CPU. But yeah, this here is nice because you get this, and then if you realize you're doing a bunch of stuff, you're rendering videos or working in Premiere or Photoshop a lot, and you're like, I feel like I'm needing a little bit more memory. Well, you've got 2 free slots, you've got 2 installed, you can get another kit of this, and it's pretty inexpensive. So there you go. Next up, let's talk about some storage. Now, we've got an M.2 slot. This team group is ridiculously inexpensive. So how fast is this one? Well, it's about as fast as what you're paying. $35 for, a terabyte, and it's $1,800 and $1,500 on the read. That's the read and the write, respectively. Now, if you wanted to spend extra money to get, less, you could do that because these are really, really highly rated, and they are going to be fast. You can head over to Samsung.com and get one of the 980s. Definitely faster, but I mean, how much are you really going to notice that? A bit. The read speeds and the write speeds, 3100, 2600. So yeah, you'll notice it, but you're getting half as much space for more price. So what's more important to you? That's what I would ask myself. I would probably go for the other one. Sacrifice a little bit of speed. You're not going to notice any difference once you're in your games and stuff. And once stuff is loaded up, it's in RAM and it's on, it's no longer, only when you're doing loading from one scene to the next is it going to matter. So, all right, let's talk about power supplies. Now, I know a lot of people like the modular stuff, but that has a premium, and we're going, not for the premium right now. So I want to go for 700 watts. And the reason is, well, number one, the price. The rules are 80 plus. Make sure you get 80 plus. That's the efficiency. You don't want anything less than that. And then Thermaltake, we got lots and lots of reviews. That's another thing I like to make sure that people have. That means a lot of people have been testing this thing. So 700 watts is going to give us a lot of breathing room when it comes to adding graphics cards in the future if you're not getting one now. If you decided you're not going to get a graphics card, that's it, you're not going to do it, you can be just fine with 600 watts or maybe even 500. But for these prices, it's not that bad of a deal right now. So I would just get more than you need because that's always going to be fine. Now for the case, this is highly subjective, but this one here works just fine for me. The Deep Cool Matrix. I just like the price, and it looks okay. It's got decent airflow through the front there, and it's a budget case, but it's got pretty much everything I want, and it's got enough room for everything, and we have USB-C on the front as well, if that motherboard supports it, but So that's what I would build if I was on a budget, and really you could, with all of this information I've given you, you can take it and put together, your own stuff. This is more of just like a buyer's guide. Now, last thing, you're going to need a mouse and keyboard, right? So we're going to do a deal here. For anybody who's watching this video, it'll be the coupon code will be back to school. 30% off our mice and keyboards. So that's what it'll be. Come over here to epicpants.com. Our keyboard's water resistant, which includes soft drinks and milk and adult beverages and coffee. It'll resist them all. These are really accurate. Anyway, all that stuff 30% off. Head over to epicpants.com. Coupon code back to school. Let me know what you think. Let me know if it's time for you to upgrade. I'm going to make another video very soon talking about my rules for upgrading, because I don't upgrade every cycle. I don't feel like it's necessary. Like right now I don't feel the need to upgrade at all. Like everything's working well. So I'll tell you what are the things that I do that make me want to upgrade. Like, how do I determine when it's time for an upgrade? Because it's kind of wasteful just to be every time you see a new thing in 900 YouTube videos being like, oh, look at this new graphics card, and you just bought one last year, but you're like, oh, a new one. Like you need to snap out of that. And I'll put together a list of like why I upgrade, when I upgrade, and what I let determine when it's time to upgrade. And I'll make that video soon. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it though. So yeah, I'll see you on the internet.